Wakey wakey, Debian 11 Bookworm is now out to the public. What's that? I'm late? Well, we're here today to talk about Kicksecure, one of the most unique Debian distributions that pledges to protect your privacy and security. So some of you are probably wondering, what is Kicksecure? Kicksecure is a project built around hardening the Linux kernel with a core Debian base, and it's also the parent distribution of the virtual machine operating system Unix. In essence, Kicsecure's developers have thought through a solid, usable Debian experience, but packed in with security hardening that doesn't interfere with the end user. Well, it depends on what kind of person you are, but we'll get back to that one. Out of the box, Kicksecure has incredibly strong Linux hardening, and it's all the kind of things you probably wouldn't notice, but they're just tiny little things that help you along the way. For example, AppArmor is enabled by default with auto-generated profiles through their own profile system to protect your programs and provide a powerful mandatory access control. And for those of you who use Debian or Ubuntu, AppArmor is present, but it isn't enforced, or the profiles aren't enabled by default, and they aren't enabled for all applications. Kicksecure enables this and makes it easier to use out of the gate. Kicksecure also provides incredibly basic Linux kernel hardening, but also some advanced Linux kernel hardening by disabling a lot of legacy technologies that you probably aren't using, enhanced read and write permissions that wouldn't otherwise be in your kernel, or more powerful system dehardening and Spectre and Meltdown protection that doesn't exist in vanilla Debian. There's so much more, but the primary benefit of Kicksecure and why you should consider using it is that you had a hardened system for those who are familiar with the Debian environment and want a battle-hardened system. Unfortunately, right now, there's no way to download an ISO. So how do we get to use Kicksecure? We're going to have to morph a Debian install to use Kicksecure ourselves. But that's enough talk about Kicksecure. Let's get out there and install Kicksecure on a virtual machine, and I'll show you guys what you need to do. So here I have in front of me, I have the Kicksecure wiki, that's on the left right here, and on the right, I have a vanilla Debian with XFCE install. Now, I will warn you that the Kicksecure guide is a little kind of all over the place, and you'll understand why it's kind of all over the place once we go through all of it, but I'm going to try to highlight some of the important steps as they are right now. So let's read through the Kicksecure wiki together, and we'll see what we're in for, so to speak. The first thing, you need to have Debian Bookworm, the latest version of Debian. Check. You need to have a user account named user. So if your username is not user, you might want to change that. Otherwise, you can just replace the text in these commands to something else like your username. But I would recommend, for the sake of stability, just make your username user. You don't want it to be identifiable on a local network, okay? Okay. First thing, don't use root. Just do passwordless root. They expect you doing su here, but don't do that. Just do sudo, okay? Alright, great. First thing we need to do, we're gonna check for updates. Any Debian or Ubuntu user knows this well. Sudo apt update. We're gonna check for updates. And what do you know? One package can be upgraded. Let's upgrade. Sudo apt upgrade. And what do you know? It's Firefox. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna download this update here for Firefox. So what we're going to do is we're going to add group to the system called console. That's basically sudo add group -- system console. So we're going to do sudo add group -- system console. And this is going to add the console group to our Debian. Next, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to add our user to the console group. So I'm going to do sudo add user, and you're going to have to put your username here, but preferably user, because this is what they build everything around. Again, if you don't have your user, you're gonna be in trouble. Add user console, and then it adds the user to the console group. Next, what we're going to need to do is we are just going to reboot the system. Because we've changed the permissions, we've updated our system. So if you had, I only updated Firefox here, but if you had something more serious, let's say you had a kernel update, a driver update, you're going to especially want to reboot. And it also refreshes the libraries so that when we start doing the other stuff, we're guaranteed to have an updated Debian system. And then it also refreshes the group permissions. So when we boot back in, we will have all of the group permissions we need, guaranteed. Systemctl reboot. So once you've rebooted back into your system, we're going to continue down the path again. This time we're now under installation, just right after reboot. And then we're going to add ourselves the Kicksecure repository. But how do we add the Kicksecure repository? Just copy paste this command, ext repo. We need to download ext repo. And what this will do is this will enable the Kicksecure repository for us. Then we'll do sudo ext repo enable Kicksecure. Remember guys, Kicksecure is actually a distribution which is built around the Tor network because of its Unix origins. And you can actually install all of your updates exclusively using the Tor network. And here's all you have to do to enable that if you want to do that. So that way you have both the Tor option and the regular option. So if you want to do sudo apt install curl, because curl's not installed by default on Debian. And that's actually this line right here. And then what we're going to do is we're actually going to add the PGP keys for Kicksecure. And you can do the same command over here where they say onion. You can do the same command, but it's going to be using the Tor link if you have Tor installed on your device already. So for example here, I already have Tor installed, and you can actually get this if you do sudo apt install apt transport Tor. And then that will let you get access to the onion address. And this is going to create a new derivative.list file in this location. And it's going to contain .deb.random string of letters and numbers. And this random string of numbers and letters is the Kicksecure repo. And you'll see right here, it's selected with bookworm, main, contrib, non-free. So you've got all the Debian repos enabled and with Kicsecure's packages. And then what we're going to do is we're going to want to download the onion repo's security key. So what this is going to do is this is going to run an update, and it's going to download Unix's Tor security key over Tor. And you see right here, we've got time elapsed because the Tor network gets a little slower despite the fact that it's just a meager little text file. And then what we're going to do is we're going to download the new onion repo. So remember you guys, you have to pick one. You can either do the ClearNet repo over Tor or just the onion exclusive repo. For simplicity's sake, just use the onion exclusive repo. You're connecting to the dark webs anyway, the forbidden dark web or whatever. Just use the dark web repo. There's only one of them. You can't add both. If you add both, it conflicts with each other and then you can't run an update. So if you do sudo apt update, just to make sure everything's all fine and dandy, you can see this one's actually loading a little bit slower. And the reason why these ones loaded slower is because they're connecting over Tor to download these updates. But now we have the benefit of Kicksecure, where we can download a choice of downloading not just Debian's updates, but we also get Kicsecure's updates over the ClearNet and Tor repos for Kicksecure. Wow, that was a mouthful. We run our sudo apt update. Finally, we're going to prove our worth. Sudo apt full upgrade. Nothing. Great. The system is fully updated. You ran sudo apt update, sudo apt full upgrade. Finally. Drum roll, please. We're going to install Kicksecure. We're going to install Kicksecure-CLI-host. And you'll see here, this is all of Kicsecure's packages. And boy, oh boy, do they have a ton. You'll see they actually have special AppArmor profiles for Thunderbird and HexChat and the Tor browser and a lot of other auto-built AppArmor profiles that are all installed as packages. And they also have special blockages and packed blockages for specific items in your repos which you might not want. So for example, GNOME includes GeoClue, and GeoClue is blacklisted from Unix and Kicksecure because GeoClue is a location device and you could potentially be tracked with the location. So if you rely on that location tracking that GNOME and KDE use and the XDG people use, I am so sorry. Maybe Kicksecure isn't for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to download all 272 megabytes of this update. And you can see it's actually pulling from various sources. Some of it's happening over Tor, some of it's happening over the ClearNet, but I'm just going to kick back and let this run. And we're back. Now, what we need to do is we need to actually go and make sure that everything has been fully done. So to make sure everything is fully done, we're going to wait and reboot again. And you'll notice this time that there's extra options for Kicksecure, but this is functionally identical to what you'll see of Debian, just everywhere where Debian is just basically been replaced for Kicksecure. Well, except the little watermark in the thing, but we're not counting that now, are we? So next what we're going to need to do is we need to go into our etc app sources.list.d, and we're going to have to go and make sure that the files in here don't conflict with each other. So for example, if I do a sudo edit etc app sources.list, and you'll notice this time it doesn't open in Nano, it opens in Mousepad. I'm not quite sure why they do this, but that's just kind of how it is. I tend not to ask questions, but here's how it works. So we have our Debian repos. These are the same boring old Debian repos that everyone knows. But what's also really weird is in appsources.list.d, which is the folder that I'm currently in right now, you'll see here there's a debian.list file. And then you look at this one, and you're like, oh, so this is the Debian repos again. But they added the Debian repos for their thing, right? Well, the reason why they did this is because they made it so that the Debian repos get the same kinds of benefits that Kicsecure's repos do. Now here we can choose to comment out some of the stuff that we want. So for example, the primary ones that I would look for is, don't worry about these ones. Instead, what I would think about is take a look at these two, all right? Because believe it or not, guys, that's right, Debian has a direct link to their Tor repos. And that's actually what these are. So if you wanted to add Debian's Tor repos, so if you wanted to completely and totally update your system over Tor, and you're gonna Control S to save the file, or you can do a file, saved, and close it. And then that's going to make sure that we can download all of Debian's updates over Tor. But there's one oddity. Even though that's in there, you can't update your system because of these conflicting lines in the app sources.list. So what are we gonna do? How are we going to deal with having these extra sources in our app sources.list? Well, here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna do the instructions. They say on the wiki. The wiki has you covered. We're gonna, might be a little messy, but it gets the job done. Sudo mv etc app sources.list, and we're gonna move it to the home folder. So now, what that means is, in the previous folder here, the sources.list is gone. And that way, when we run our update, our system can fully update with the Debian and Kicksecure repos in harmony with each other. Now, they say here, this is where, what I mean by the installation guide can be a little confusing at times. Because when you look where it's here, where it says disable the extra repo Kicksecure apps, they're lying, okay? If you do that, it removes all of Kicsecure's repositories, and then you have no way to update your Kicksecure things. That's crazy. I don't know why they say this. They don't even write it into the app sources.list or any other derivative file in here. It's honestly really, really dumb. You see here where it says this error, it blocked me from updating. But why did it block me from updating? It's because you can only pick one. Do you want the Tor repos or the ClearNet repos? I am lazy. I am going to do only the ClearNet repos. So sort of pick your options and you'll get there, okay? You'll get there. The point is, the thing to be wary of is in the first, you need to get rid of the sources.list file. This thing, you need to just get rid of it. Speaking of which, if you wanted to open it because their command just dumps it in your home folder, here it is. So if you want it back, it's right here. It's in your home folder. You can get it back. But what we're gonna do instead is you pick your one. So do you want the ClearNet or do you want Tor? And you get the same choice if you use Kicsecure's repos. So if you do a sudo edit etc app sources.list.d, And then we're gonna do derivative. Well, that's the key for Kicksecure stuff. We're looking for the Repos Kicksecure sources. Yeah, so you'll get access to all of it here. It's fine. It's fine. And there you go. You have Kicksecure. Now, we just went through all of that just to get this system, and here it is. You get a fully hardened Debian system with your privacy and security at the forefront, and that's great. But do want to note, there are actually some key differences between Kicksecure and vanilla Debian out of the box. Well, depending on how you look at it. If you want to download updates, how do you install updates? And this is true with XFCE on Debian too, because you're like, how do I install updates on Debian? Well, you could use the Synaptic Package Manager, but using the Synaptic Package Manager is, well, I'll be honest, it's not the greatest thing in the world. But if you need a GUI package manager, I mean, it is a way to do it. But one of the things that we can do to check for upgrades, because you noticed when I opened the Synaptic Package Manager here, they're asking me for my password. Now, you might not think this is a big deal. You're like, what do you mean, Trafotin? I enter in my password when I update my computer every day. That's not good, man. Because one of the things that Kicksecure does as a precautionary measure is they actually have added your user to another group. And this other group allows you to update your system without using root privileges. It's better for your security, and it's great for usability because you don't have to always type in your sudo password every time you want to update your computer. And it's as simple as this. You run upgrade non-root. You run upgrade non-root, and what this does is this fully updates your system completely independent of the permission system, and you don't need to invoke your sudo password or use sudo to do it. Isn't that nifty? Well, we've worked our way to get our hard-earned Kicksecure system, and I have a lot of questions. As someone who has thought about this long and hard, I do have to ask a couple questions. When you consider the fact that I had to go to their wiki, copy-paste a lot of instructions, and they build themselves as a distribution that is to make security out there for normal people, well, if you're entering in all of these commands already, I don't really think you're a normal person. And while this is literally probably is the best way to use Debian, the steps that it takes to get here can be a little annoying, especially if you're just a normal user. And this is probably the biggest complaint I have, to be honest. It's the biggest barrier of entry that you have to enter in all of these commands, and even know basic Debian, because you'll notice that I entered in different commands than what they list here sometimes. Like they say -- no install recommends to look for the best and most valid package. But how is a normal person going to know this if they're not like a long-time Debian user? The other big problem with Kicksecure literally isn't even their fault. You have to understand their decision-making here. Kicksecure suffers not because of what they do. What they do is actually really good. But they suffer because of Debian. You know, good old Debian. I'm going to complain about this now. Right now, Debian Bookworm is a very recent release. It's only at its 0.1. It just came out in June of 2023. It feels really great right now, but come 1 year, come 2 years, it's going to be very old. Packages won't be updated. You're still going to be running the same old crusty versions of LibreOffice that never get updated for years, and it's just painful. Compare this to when you use a rolling release distribution like Fedora, maybe even SUSE Tumbleweed. It's really bad at serving a desktop user better because you get updates that are higher upstream, and there's less that can go wrong because you're not running Debian's weird customized versions of stuff. Probably better to be running a rolling release anyway, and it lures the user into this false sense of stability. But the reason why, even though I just dumped on Debian for a couple minutes now, the reason why Kicksecure chose Debian as their base distribution is because of this release cycle. Compared to a rolling release distribution, like say the Arch Linuxes or the SUSE Tumbleweeds of the world, it's hard for them to keep up with all of these updates and ensuring that they're getting their users the best experience. Even if they were to choose something like Fedora that's once every year, and doing a distro release every single year because of Fedora's numbering system might be too much for them. Heck, even 2 years might be too much for them. And I don't blame them for that decision. And it's a valid reason why they chose Debian as their base, and it's pretty understandable. The other thing I need to comment is the other big elephant in the room is the XFCE. Now it's like, okay, what are we going on? What's going on now? XFCE is your default base here. That's what they recommend when you install Kicksecure, and that's, you know, when you follow the instructions on their wiki, that's where you're gonna get. When you install Unix, that's what you get. Why is that? The reason why XFCE is the default is because it's an easy enough to use graphical desktop environment, and it's lightweight. It's incredibly lightweight, and it can, more importantly, be run on a virtual machine. But what if you're installing this on real hardware? If you're installing this on real hardware where you have more resources at your disposal, let me tell you now, using XFCE, not a good idea. And unless you have an ancient computer, it's not a good idea. And let me tell you why. XFCE, while they have plans for it, does not support Wayland. And because of Debian's release cycle, as we know, from what I just said, it's going to take 3 years. Assuming XFCE even gets it done in the next 3 years for XFCE to support Wayland. Just install something that supports Wayland, okay? You got your GNOME, KDE, and Sway. You want a tile and window manager, probably pick Sway. You want something that looks like Windows, pick KDE. You want something that's its own thing or is like macOS, pick GNOME. Great, you did it. Solved your problems. You need to use something that supports Wayland, and then they're going to ask you to first switch your display manager, as if normal users would know how to do that. And I know I've just dumped for the last like couple minutes on Kicksecure. I've dumped on Debian and I've dumped on Kicksecure. Now what? What is Kicksecure actually for? And why would I actually consider using this? There is actually one reason. And what I think the real reason of Kicksecure is, you're not going to be using Kicksecure because you're the die-hard Debian user, because I don't think a die-hard Debian user would be happy with this. I don't think a normal person using this would be happy with it either, compared to using a rolling release distribution or a mutable distribution. What I think someone who uses Kicksecure wants is they just want a basic system which just does the bare minimum, but specifically to feed the purpose of running virtual machines in Unix. You're basically treating your system, in essence, like a glorified Cubes OS, except it's not as good as Cubes OS because it doesn't have the same kinds of virtual machine clash protections. But that aside, still way more accessible to use than normal people. You want to install virtual machines in here? Absolutely you can. You want to go and install, I don't know, Virt Manager? Well, this thing's running, so we can't exactly run Virt Manager, but let's say you wanted to run Virt Manager. You can. And that's one of the benefits of Kicksecure. It's a solid base system to just be run as a hypervisor, and then you can just run all of your nice little, cute little virtual machines. And it's a really niche purpose, but it's a worthy purpose nonetheless. And the research that Kicsecure's people have done has actually influenced a lot of the projects that we know today, all the way up from things like Bubble Wrap and AppArmor. Heck, even little things like in the Linux kernel, for example, against hardening it against little things. It's sure there's a lot of stuff that they dump on you here, and there's a lot of information when you go through the wiki, but I want to be fair and say this is what this is for. They know what they want to use it for. I just wish they wouldn't bill it for normal people, because until you offer an ISO, it's probably not for normal people. That being said, I'm just going to leave it there. So, why don't you go leave a like on this video? Leave a like on this video if you would like to get a kick in the pants to be more secure. Alright, thank you for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Have a great rest of your week.